I don't want to go so far as to say that I hated myself, but I definitely hated a lot of things about myself. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. It is your girl Simone, Nicole here, back at it again with yet another video. Today's video is going to be all about self-love, confidence, how I have grown into the woman that I am today, and my journey to get here. Before we start, there's a few things to address. One, I love being back on the couch. We haven't been back on the couch in a minute. Two, I know I look very different. I didn't realize that this corset looks like this when my waist looks smaller than my neck. I'm gonna link this corset down in my description box. I got it from Amazon. And last but not least, the hair. This is clip-ins. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it in another video. Now that we've gotten all of our disclaimers out of the way, we need to talk because I get the comment a lot, wow, like you are so beautiful, and moreover, you are so confident. And I don't understand, like, how have you gotten to that point? How do you radiate confidence the way that you do? And can you do an entire video on it? And I've actually gotten this question a ton. It's interesting to me that it has become remarkable to love yourself, because it is like you have to have a certain amount of audacity to love yourself in the world that we exist in. When you see somebody's after, it's really difficult to imagine them being any other way. I don't want to go so far as to say that I hated myself, but I definitely hated a lot of things about myself. This, how you see me now, is not how I've always been. This is not just about to be a video of me just talking about how I became more confident. I want y'all to walk away with actionable steps as to how you can do the exact same thing. So I figure I would start at the beginning of my journey. As a kid, my mom used to say all the time when she would take me out, like, people would literally stop her and be like, oh my God, a little baby doll that you have sitting in that carriage. And I used to get compliments all the time on how beautiful I was. I was in my first film ever when I was like 5 or 6 years old. In case y'all didn't know, also I'm an actor. I'm a content creator, but I'm also an actor. That's why I moved to Atlanta. Side little tangent. I literally thought that I was gonna be famous when I was 16 because I thought I was gonna go on American Idol, hit it big, and I was just gonna be like the next big thing, because singing was my passion when I was a little girl. So I've always been an artist. I've always been a performer. I've always been a creative. Flash forward to middle school. And that is when my light proceeded to get dimmed, because that's when bullying started to happen. And I was bullied mercilessly for my skin color. And I mean mercilessly. And it's interesting because I have an overwhelming amount of comments just talking about my skin. And because of this part of my childhood, it is so difficult for me it feels very dystopian that I'm in a world where the very thing that was used to ground me into the little nub of who I actually am is the thing that people are pointing out and trying to use to build me back up. It's quite literally insane. So I was made fun of literally mercilessly, and I have memories of coming home, and I remember this one particular instance. I came home and I guess I had a really bad day of bullying, and I was crying my eyes out, and my mom kind of didn't know what to do. I just felt horrible. My mom called my sisters over, and I remember my sister pulled out my school picture, and I remember bawling my eyes out. And she held the picture up to my face, and she told me to look at that little girl. And she said, do you think that she's ugly? And I actually don't remember what my answer was. Transparently, I have no idea what my answer was. But my sister, I just remember her being so convicted and telling me, that little girl is not ugly. That little girl is beautiful. That little girl is you. I will never forget that. It was hard because only my mom looks like me, and then one of my sisters looks like me. My other two sisters are lighter skin, not light skin, but lighter than me. After we had that like little intervention of sorts, my sister that looks like me to the point where people used to think that like when we were out in public that I was her daughter, called and she was like, are you feeling any better? And I was like, yeah, I'm feeling better. She was like, there's just gonna be a point, they call me Toots. So she was like, there's just gonna be a point, Toots, where like you really grow into yourself and who you are and your skin tone. And I remember saying like, no, I think that I'm doing that now. And she said, no, you have no idea. It's crazy to think about that moment because I feel differently now. I'm just like, wow, that was a little baby thinking like, oh, I've totally stepped into it. So ego, so masking, yeah, I'm totally fine. That was middle school. And I went to an all black middle school. I moved school districts and started going to an all white school, which actually inadvertently ended up making things better for me because it was no longer about my skin tone, and it was just about me being black. I felt othered not because of my skin tone. I felt othered because I was black. There were other black kids at the school, so I could hang out with the black kids. I was still dating the black boys. Like I was okay. And then also I was able to find self-esteem in the fact that I was a hard worker. I used to have like 2 jobs, be in AP classes, an honor student, over 3.5, 3.6, 3.7 every single semester. And then I fell in love with acting because I joined the speech and debate team, and I had kind of forgotten that artistic part of myself. I got on the speech and debate team and it changed my life. I remember the feeling of walking up to rounds and you wouldn't know who was in your round because you were just known by a number. People would literally like do a double take and get scared that I was in their rounds because I was that good. And I remember being in my final round. It was a state final round. And I remember thinking, I can do this for the rest of my life. And I ended up being first in the state that year. And I'm not saying this to be like, oh, I'm just that girl. I mean, because I am, but I'm saying it because it built my self-esteem. All of a sudden it was like, oh my God, I'm really good at something. And it was something that was so tied to who I am internally and intrinsically, you know? There was a confidence boost for me there. I felt good about how I looked on the outside, but now I was starting to work on my inside, and I didn't understand how pivotal that was gonna be for my self-love journey. So by the time I got to college, I started to be surrounded by more beautiful black women. I did go to a PWI, but there was such a strong black community where I went to school that I was placed in like a mentorship program, and my mentor Sham, shout out to Sham, love you girl. She had natural hair. She was dark skinned like me. So they used to call me Mini Sham. I loved that because she was so confident and so beautiful, and like, I just loved everything about her, and she had natural hair. At this time, I wasn't even natural, y'all. And I remember I gave myself one last relaxer. And after that, I was like, I'm done. I want to start my natural hair journey. And I did. And by my junior year, I was completely natural. And I feel like that's when everything clicked into place. By that time, I was in my acting program. I was way more authentically myself because so much of the acting program was about beating down that like persona that you build up to protect yourself in high school, and like really getting down to who you are. And I was so naked so much of the time that I had no choice but to look at who I was and decide to either like myself or hate myself. And I've never really been that inclined to hate myself. It was the other people around me that made me feel bad about who I was. I was doing my makeup. I was getting experimental with my clothing. I was taking on leadership positions. All of these things were combining to build me up into somebody that I really, really liked as a person. And it's interesting because I started to be confronted with how different I viewed myself as to how other people viewed me. Other dark-skinned girls will get it, but I feel like around like 2015, 2016, all of a sudden it started to be cool to be dark-skinned, and it started to be praised to be dark-skinned. And I feel like I was looking around like, what the fuck is going on? I feel like I went natural, and then the wave of it's cool to be dark-skinned happened, and all of a sudden I was getting all this attention. I had absolutely no idea what to do with it. It took a minute for my inside and who I knew I was and how valuable I felt like I was to catch up with the outside. And the affirmations that I was getting on the outside, but I'm really happy that it happened in the inverse, to where I figured out what I liked about myself on the inside, and then the outside was just like an expression of that. So after college, we kind of have where I am today. I moved to Atlanta, which is a black ass city with black ass people. I cannot step outside with someone being like, I will roll out the red carpet and kiss the ground that you walk on if you just look my way. Like, I have never been loved and appreciated as a black woman the way that I am in Atlanta, Georgia. And then also the self-esteem that I got from picking up and moving from a state to another state where I have no family, had to be on my own, no safety net, everything on me, no cosigner, no nothing. And I've been here, I've made it, have not fallen, actually have leveled up since I've been here. Yeah, talk to me nice. Do y'all see how everything that I'm saying is mostly not about how I look on the outside? It's a lot about how my self-esteem was being built by the things that I was accomplishing, right? So girl, I literally thought I had everything figured out. I thought I was good. I thought I was like thriving until what I like to call the reckoning happened. I made an entire YouTube video about this in the midst of me like building up my self-esteem and me talking about how much I love the fact of how much of a hard worker I am. I developed a really bad habit of making my work ethic a personality trait, and I did not know at the time, but it was the thing that I liked about myself the most. And I didn't realize this until I had worked myself into the ground, because I just thought it was oh so cool that I was such a hard worker and that I never stopped and that I was always on call and blah 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 blah. Ugh, cringe. So brainwashed capitalism, baby, am I right? I had ran myself into the ground to the point where I made myself sick. Once I was sick, I couldn't shake it. I was sick for like 2 weeks, and during that 2 weeks I could not work. So I was just sitting on my couch just thinking to myself, like, what would happen if all of this went away? My body is my instrument. My body is my work. It's the way that I do everything. So what would happen if this was taken away from me? What would I like about myself? That might seem dramatic to others because it's like, girl, you had a cold. But one, I don't get sick. I had not been sick for 3 years. So for me to get sick and be knocked on my ass for 2 weeks was crazy, friend. And that's when I started to have these conversations with myself. And I realized, like, well, girl, if you predicate everything that you like about yourself, your entire self-esteem, on your ability to produce, well, what happens when you don't have that anymore? Because my able-bodiedness, thank God, literally thank God that I have this body, my instrument, and that it's healthy every single day. But my instrument can get taken away at any time. So if that went away, what do I like about myself? And I was very shocked at the fact that I love a lot of things about myself, but not as much as I love the fact that I was a hard worker. I finally understood I can't depend on things that are changeable to build me up self-esteem wise. Body standards change every damn year. Like I already discussed, skin tones apparently are in versus out. Fashion trends cycle literally at the drop of a dime, and your external can change at any time. In going on the journey of trying to figure out what I liked about myself, I was able to distill down all the steps that I basically took down into 5 steps. And I want to share those steps with you so that you can have something to walk away with. Step number 1, you have to stop being mean to yourself. You do. I have so many videos about this at this point. If you is a rider, then you've already seen them and you understand how much of a big proponent I am for you being your best friend and your number 1 supporter. This world wants you to hate yourself so bad. That's just the fact of the matter. This entire world, especially if you live in the US, is ran off of capitalism. And as long as these companies can find something to make you insecure about, that means that they can sell you the solution to a problem that they made the problem that now they're selling you a fix for. In order to combat that, you have to start within yourself. All of that negative self-talk, that's cut. That's gone. No more calling yourself stupid. No more just talking down on yourself in general. I heard this on like TikTok or in passing in life. They were saying the person that's in your head, if you took that person out and personified them and they were in your friend group and they talked to you that way, would you put up with still having them as your friend? Moreover, if that person in the friend group talked to your very best friend, your mother, anybody that you care about that way, would you be okay with it? Because usually the answer is no. And it's crazy that we get so defensive on behalf of others and stand up for others so quickly, but are just as quick to bring ourselves down. No more. And I understand that it is a hard habit to break. I talk a lot about also being forgiving of yourself and being patient with yourself, because insert your age here, you have spent that many years learning to be this person. It's gonna take a long time to undo what you have learned how to do. Step number 2, and this might be hard depending on your circumstances, but you have to change your surroundings. I feel like so much of the way that we love ourselves and learn to love ourselves is reflected in our surroundings, whether it be our familiar units, our friend groups, the city in which we are raised. It can be really hard to be a rose that came out of concrete. So therefore, sometimes you have to take yourself out of that situation and move yourself somewhere else where you are loved. Try your best to get out of the environment that beat you down in the first place, girl, because the chances of your environment changing are very small, but you can do something about it by getting the fuck up on out of there. And it also means that you might have to let go of some friendships, which is really unfortunate and really hard. Adult friendship is hard, and coming to terms with like the people that you call your friends like maybe not be the best people for you. But what I will tell you is that even though it hurts like hell, getting rid of friends that make you feel bad about yourself is going to be imperative to your journey, because your friends should uplift you, they should love you, they should want the best for you, and if they're doing anything contrary to that, then they don't need to be in your life. Number 3, you need to figure out what you like about yourself, both internally and externally. And I want you to pull out a pen and paper or your phone or whatever the hell. I want you to write down the things that you love about yourself, or even just the things you like about yourself. And if you have to dig deep, then baby, dig deep. If you like the shade of your canine tooth in your mouth, write it down. If you like the fact that your elbows are real pointy and can be used as a weapon, write it down. You have to start somewhere, especially when you're starting from a place of such deep self-hatred. Scraping to find anything is going to be imperative, because it's an active habit, right? You got to get your brain used to thinking in this way and pointing out positives, even if it's small. When you start to train your brain in that way, it starts to become easier to figure out things that you like about yourself. Number 4, you are going to have to be delusional as hell. Delusional as If you don't think that at the beginning of my journey, when I was 13 years old, that I wouldn't look in the mirror and say, you are so beautiful, and I did not believe it. I used to stand in the mirror because I heard somewhere, read somewhere that if you just tell yourself you're beautiful, even if you don't believe it. So I would stand in the mirror and I would say, you are so beautiful. And a part of me knew that I did not believe that. But one day I just kept on saying it to myself over and over and over again, until one day I believed it was true. And that was that on that. You are the main character, and you have to live your life like that. You cannot wake up every single day thinking about the way that others will perceive you and then trying to act off that. If you let other people control your life and control how good or bad you feel about yourself, you are going to live a very miserable existence. Imagine if every single comment that I got, I just took their advice. That would be crazy, huh? And it would be me pandering to people that don't actually care about me and like want to see the best out of my content. They just feel bad and they want a punching bag. And I'm not gonna let people that want me to be their punching bag run my life. It is the exact same way for you, friend. No, you may not be a content creator with thousands of eyes on you, but when you make yourself the center of other people's universes in a bad way, you start to overthink everything and think that when you step outside, everyone is looking at you and picking you apart in the way that you pick yourself apart. That is actually not true. I always say that you have to not give a shit about what anybody thinks and walk through this world unapologetically, because if anybody notices whatever flaw you have that someone else has put on you or that you've put on yourself, either one, they're a fucking fan and congratulations, you have your first fan, or number 2, they are deeply miserable themselves. I genuinely believe when I walk outside that if someone is staring at me, they're staring at me because they think that I'm pretty, because they might recognize who I am, because they might like the clothes that I have on, because they just might like the way that I carry myself. I never think that someone is looking at me and picking me apart and thinks that I'm ugly or thinks that I'm this or thinks that I'm that. And the reason why I approach situations that way is because that's how I am. And most people, you project yourself onto other people. So for me, I have trained my delusional brain to project the best in people onto other people. So when I'm looking at somebody, I'm not looking at you sizing you up and down. I'm looking at you because that skirt is cute as you slayed that makeup down. Where did you get your hair done? That's what I'm looking at other people for. So I assume it's the same for me. People tend to think that everyone is going to notice this flaw about them. And I hate to say it, friend, but the reason why you think people notice other flaws about you is because you spend a lot of time picking other people apart and their flaws, because that's what you do to yourself. So then you get afraid that everybody else is doing it to you, and then it makes you want to live even smaller. But in reality, you could just live as big as you want and do whatever you want, because at the end of the day, nobody cares as much as you care. And again, if they care as much as you, unfortunately, it means that they are probably a very sad person. person. Okay, my last and final tip is consistency. And I know y'all are so tired of hearing from me about consistency, because every single last one of these videos be ended with me talking about being consistent. But it's true, friend. Like, every single thing that I've accomplished is because I have been consistent at it. Every single thing that I have been able to grow in has happened because I was relentlessly consistent. You can try to follow all 4 of the previous steps that I was telling you about, but if you do it periodically, you're not gonna see much of a change. It's weird to say, but I understand that it's hard to commit to not hating yourself anymore, because getting into that mindset and getting on that negative feedback loop is so easy to do. When you hate yourself, that is the devil that you know, and you are so comfortable being that person. But I am telling you, it is so much better on the other side, being somebody that loves themselves, and it radiates from the inside out to every single person around them. At the end of the day, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I don't give a fuck about being pretty. What is my energy doing? Is my energy something that pulls people in, that people want to be around, that people want to learn from? Am I somebody that young girls look up to? Am I somebody to where when I touch their lives, they walk away feeling better? Am I somebody that people love, that people trust, that people depend on? Am I trustworthy? Am I loyal? All of those things matter exponentially more to me than the outer presentation of myself. But don't get me wrong, baby, the outer presentation of myself is always gonna eat, because I love myself so much that I express it on the outside. And my genuine expression, I love when my hair is done. I love when my nails are done. I love when my fit is good. Like, I love that stuff. I'm not gonna deprive myself of that, because it's just a further extension of the love that I show myself inside, and the things that I love about myself inside. It is an outward expression of that. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and that you guys got something out of it. I love you guys so much, and I actually want you guys to do something for me in the comment section if you've made it to the end. Before you give me a compliment, I want you to give yourself a compliment. I want you to tell me something about yourself that you love. It can be internal, it can be external. I would prefer for it to be internal, but it can be external. That is gonna be all for today's video. I love you guys to the moon and back. I really hope that you were able to see from this video that someone that looks like they're got it all together is not necessarily true, and that so many of us have journeys, scars that you'll never see because we have healed them so well. I just really want everybody on this channel to be so deeply in love with themselves and have such an unshakable self-esteem that can't nobody knock you down. Like, I just want you to feel like that girl, because you are. I'm not gonna keep on rambling. I love you guys so much. I will catch you guys next week in a sit down video. I'm pretty sure that's the video I'm gonna be discussing why I've been so sad lately and why I am feeling better. And we're also gonna talk about these here clip-ins. Until then, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.